So now it is time for our speaker spark. We always call it a speaker spark because we say that maybe whatever is offered by our speaker can ignite a spark in us, maybe of remembering or maybe of questioning. But it's a spark, needless. Yeah, needless. What was that? So anyway, so I'd like to just have a brief introduction. The topic for today is tuning in to truth, purpose, and joy. And our speaker today is Linda Schley. Oh, Schley. And I practiced and practiced, and I was saying it before, Schley. So she's Schley, Linda Schley. So just to give you a little bit information about Linda, if you haven't read it on our calendar or Facebook page, Linda has been supporting authentic and creative expression as her role as a speech language specialist for over 25 years. And her Reiki journey began in 1998. And that's kind of a pivotal year for me because that's when I started coming to Circle. So this journey began unfolding very slowly until 2016, when an experience with fascia release enabled her to begin sensing energy even more deeply. So in 2019, I'm telling you, I had about 3 hours of sleep, but in 2022, Linda decided to add coaching to her skill set. And she was earning a certification as a health and wellness coach. So Linda's ability to weave Reiki, wellness coaching, and her skills as a speech language coach specialist enabled her to facilitate a unique and deeply healing experience. Her greatest joy is sharing these skills and gifts in collaborative sessions, supporting clients to connect more with their joy and individual expression. So let's give a very warm circle welcome to Linda Schley.
Good morning. You can hear me okay on Zoom? I hope so. Thank you, Reverend Susan, and thank you everyone for welcoming me here today. As Reverend Susan said, my topic is tuning in to truth, purpose, and joy. And my intention is my words flow. So just a little disclaimer that everything that I speak about today, and I think it connects really well with the seed, is it's not a bypass. We have real grief, we have real tragedy in life, and we need to process that. And so what I'm talking about today is honoring and respecting that, and then what we can do to move through. We tune in and we tune out to ourselves and the world around us all day long. Consciously and subconsciously, we do this. I could tune in right now to my nervous feelings, or I can choose to tune into my excitement of being here. I can choose to tune into past experiences of doubt, or I can choose to tune into your welcoming faces. And what I decide to tune into will actually determine, in part, how the next 20 minutes flows. So when I spoke to Ken about this talk, he said that the group today would be interested in hearing the ups and downs of my journey and also the path that created the me that I am today. So, and how I weave together speech and language therapy, Reiki, and coaching. And the teacher in me also wants to share some practical tips, and so we'll do that as well at the end. So I'd like to start with a story from the summer when feeling irritated actually almost prevented me from tuning into life and having a really good laugh. I was on my way to Costco, and I got stuck at a train crossing a few miles from my house, a freight train. So really long, and there's a lot of nods here, so you probably already can guess how I was feeling, a little bit frustrated, even though I was only going to Costco. So I often drive in silence, but trying to distract myself, I turned on the radio and I started to sing. I was singing, but I was still feeling annoyed. And those of you in the room, you have a little slip of paper folded, and I think on Zoom, we're gonna have the words pulled up. If you'd like to join me in singing or saying the chorus to the song that the universe sent me that day, I would love for you to join me. Ready? Here we go. The waiting is the hardest part. Every day, see one more card. You take it on faith, you take it to the heart. The waiting is the hardest part. All right, love that voice. I love all the voices. Yes, I know, I felt that. So I had to laugh when Tom Petty was singing these words to me as I watched the freight cars go by. But interestingly, it took me a little bit of time to get it. I was frustrated, a little bit knotted up inside at having to wait, the impatience. And even though I was hearing the song, and even though I was singing the words, I wasn't really hearing it. I wasn't really listening. And so that actually makes me wonder, how many other times in life have I been distracted from the opportunities that life has given me to laugh, to have joy? And partly this is because my mind and my body were full of thoughts and feelings of maybe the past or maybe the future, or hung up in things that they didn't need to be hung up with in the moment. So we're going to jump back to a time when I tuned out from the truth, and it actually was a good thing that I was tuned out. So when I was in high school, I was about 14 or 15. A friend of mine was at my door at night ringing the bell, and she came in and she was running from her home because her father was out of town, her sisters were out of the house, and her mother was an alcoholic. And so that night she had been drinking too much. She became verbally abusive, maybe a little physically abusive. And so my friend knew that she could run to my house. And so we were up in my room talking, and in the course of the conversation, she said, well, you know, my mom, and whatever she said, like your dad. And that was a huge moment for me, because even at 14 or 15, I didn't know that my father was an alcoholic. It wasn't hidden. It was the 70s, you know, when I was growing up, and a time where my parents could pull into the liquor store and send me in to buy a jug of wine. I could go into the A&P and buy a 6-pack of beer. Nobody sent into a 10-year-old doing that. And so, right? So even though I didn't know, right, that was the truth of my situation, that was actually a time then it was a good thing that I tuned that out, because it helped me to move forward and get through it. And so it's also important to add here too that my mother suffered from mental illness, and that's something that took me a much longer time to process and to become aware of. But it's part of the weaving together of my story. And it's a good thing I tuned out the truth then, because it was a lot to carry. There's a lot to carry. So, well, I was thinking this morning, and I have little notes on here as things were coming in. And some of you may know that toy. It's kind of like a helicopter with a rubber band, and you can wind the top, right? And then you let it fly. And it was always fun to wind it a little bit too tight and have the rubber bands get all jumbled up. And so when I think of myself, that was me, right? I was really tied up in knots, and I didn't know it because that was my normal. It was normal to feel that way. And I created a belief system around that. And so my truths became, now I know they're not truths, but my truths at the time were, be small, be quiet. That way it's safer. I also believe that you keep your problems to yourself. And I believe that you put on a happy face. That's what you do. That's what you do. So, so those were the truths that I developed as a child that I have actually been working my whole life to undo and to connect with what's really true. Now, I have to say that it's been a process. And when I was just holding on to the truth of alcoholism and mental illness, that was hard. And anger, bitterness, why me? Along the way, I've opened up to the truth too. They did their best. And both of those things are true. I had to tell myself a million times that they did their best before that started to sink in. And I still have a ways to go with that, but it's coming together. You may be wondering, I mean, it's easy and not easy to share, but relatively easy. Both of my parents passed on 10 years ago. And so that has been part of my process of being able to open up to this truth. Also, I no longer feel like I'm alone. I know that a lot of people suffer. And I have lots of family and friends that I've shared with. There we go. So I'm moving ahead in my story a little bit. You know, I put on that face, even though I was full of knots. That was my normal. I finished high school. I went to college. I studied to become a speech and language specialist. I earned my bachelor's degree. I took a break from school and worked. I went to grad school. And all this time I was interested in spiritual things, angel readings, intuitive writing, all of those type of things, but I didn't really feel it. Took the workshops, but really didn't feel it. Then when I was in my late 20s, I heard of Reiki. I went to an informational class at a local adult school. I didn't feel the energy, but I was still interested. And so I went with a really close friend of mine. We received the Reiki attunements. And even though I really wasn't still feeling the energy, I tried. And along that time, what actually was really frustrating for me was that my friend really got it. And so comparison, we just want to stop comparing ourselves to anybody else, right? Everybody's path is different. And so that was like 1998, 1999. My life moved along. And it was good. My life was good. At the same time, I was full of these knots. I got married. I had good friends. I tried here and there to feel the Reiki energy. I had a baby, and I continued to go to these spiritual workshops and events. So some years later, the same friend who joined me for the Reiki training heard of a fascia release training. And so for those of you who may not know, fascia is, and I may not be describing this perfectly, is the like a sheath of connective tissue that covers our whole entire body. And our bodies store everything. And so I went to this fascia release training, and it all came out. It was time. It was time. The knots started to loosen and to become undone. And please don't think that I'm saying that Reiki attunement plus 18 years of frustration plus fascia release equals the path. Everybody has their own path, as Reverend Susan has said. And that is absolutely true. This is just how it went for me. So in 2000, let's see. Well, in 2016, I was in a good place, supportive husband, healthy son, amazing friends, good career, and members of my family that I was connected with who were understanding. And so I was ready to go back and uncover a lot of those truths from my childhood that I hadn't been ready to look at that time. And I believe actually that's why I didn't feel the Reiki energy for all of those years, is because I wasn't ready to. And then when I was ready, when I had the support, it all came together. For the sake of time, I'm not going into the nitty-gritty of all those years, except to say that it was hard. It was great, lots of tears and ups and downs, some depression. And along the way, I learned how to breathe. I wouldn't change a thing. Moving forward, I often wondered why me, but moving back, I see the perfection of really every moment. And this isn't to say that life is perfect, right? What is perfect? It's just a story that we have in our minds. There's always going to be hard parts to life, but there is also a lot of space for finding purpose and joy. For some time, with the release that came with the fascia work, I felt really bubbly. I was finally able to feel, right? 18 years of waiting, actually, more like 45 years of waiting. And I loved offering Reiki sessions, but then I decided to bring something new into it. And that's when I started learning coaching. And I feel like it's important to say that coaching isn't about telling somebody what to do. Wellness coaching or life coaching, the philosophy is that everybody has their own wisdom inside of them. And so that's what I bring to sessions now, is this philosophy. And when somebody comes to work with me, we settle into the space with meditation, with some centering, with Reiki, and then clearing away the noise. Maybe it's external noise, maybe it's internal noise, helps the person to connect with their own inner wisdom, their own purpose, their truth, and their joy. This is a never-ending process, which is a good thing, but also can be a really frustrating thing. The good thing is that it continues to unfold through our whole entire lives, and we can continue to feel more joy, more purpose, and more truth. So, like I said, I'm a teacher, and so I need to share some tips, and I have this printout for all of you today. Sorry, not for those of you who are on Zoom, but I'm sure we can get it to you. And interestingly, I printed 12 out, and I think that there's 12 people here today. So no coincidences, right? So Linda's top 10, not top 11 tips for tuning in. One is to breathe. Breathing is the key for unlocking our truth, purpose, and joy. And I needed to have a lot of compassion for myself, because for most of my life, I couldn't breathe. I was stuck in that survival breathing, and I would become really frustrated during yoga classes when they said, take a deep breath, and my breath stopped here. And I thought everybody else was breathing, but I couldn't. Along the way, I stopped trying to breathe. I started trying to breathe again. And it's been a huge process, but it has to be at the top of my list. Number 2 is slow down. Pick one thing every day to do a little bit slowly. I like to walk in the mornings before work, and I used to take a long, fast walk. And I learned that taking a slower, shorter walk was actually better for me and helped me to tune in even better. Number 3, allow yourself to know the truth of a situation without needing to act right away. So in the coaching world, there's 5 stages to change. We have pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. Pre-contemplation is when we're not aware at all that there's a problem or a situation that we need to deal with. Contemplation, we're thinking about it. Notice that there's an actual stage for that, just for the thinking. And then there's a stage for action. I mean, there's a stage for preparation before we act. And so I found that really helpful for myself to make that space of knowing something without having to jump in and do something about it. Number 4 is change one thing. We don't have to change everything all at once. And there's a book I'm reading now called The 1 Degree Shift. And if anyone's heard this before, if 2 trains are starting off on the East Coast and each of them turns a 1 degree, one will end up in Mexico and one will end up in Canada. So it's the small things that we do every day that will actually make the big difference. Number 5 is keep it light. Embrace perfection. When I was preparing for today, I was going to do a top 10 list. Then I only had 8, then I had 9, and then it jumped to 11. And so it's not the typical, right? We're used to hearing top 10 lists. Well, we have a top 11 list today. Also keep it simple. Number 6. Yesterday, there was an authentic relating workshop here. And the practices were deep. They were hard in some ways, but they were also very simple. It doesn't need to be complicated to be effective. And so keeping it simple can be the way to go. I think about, and this is no comment on people going to the gym, but it kind of makes me laugh that we have a beautiful world outside and you can just put on your sneakers and step outside the door and take a walk. And sometimes, it can get complicated, putting on our shoes, having the gym membership, drive to the gym, go on a treadmill. We can just step outside and enjoy and walk. But again, not putting down gyms at all, if that's your thing. Number 7 is figure out some life hacks to help you move along. The definition of a life hack or a hack is an ingenious or uncommon solution for a common problem. And we can insert life hacks when we're growing and we're stretching ourselves, when we're moving out of our comfort zones, right? Because nothing grows in a comfort zone. We have to get a little bit uncomfortable to stretch and to grow. And I went to town on a life hacks for today. Not coincidentally, I was signed up for this authentic relating workshop here yesterday. And before Ken and I scheduled for me to be here today. And so I had the opportunity to drive here from my house. I knew where I was going. I was right in the space. And so I could feel the beautiful energy here. I could feel comfortable with being here. And so that was one life hack. Another one was I joined on Zoom last week, so I could see how the process went. And then also I even kind of hacked this talk where I had my beginning more solid and I had my ending a little bit looser so I could know like, oh, I can shorten this or lengthen it depending on the time. Oh, and another life hack was the singing, right? Singing with you all or right at the beginning of talking. Number 8 tip, don't get hung up on finding the right thing. Just try something. We can get hung up in that analysis paralysis. What's the right thing I need to do to move along? There are no mistakes. There's life experiences, learning experiences. And so we try something, and if it doesn't work, we switch course. Number 9, let it go. My old mind would leave today, and on the drive home, I'd be thinking all the should-haves, all the things that I didn't say that I wanted to say, all the things that I thought I could have done better. So let it go. Number 10, know when you've done enough. At work, I work at a middle school, and I started this practice at the end of the school day. I close my computer and I say, I've done enough for today. And I share that with other people. I might be walking out of the building and I see the school nurse and I'll say, hey, did you do enough today? And she'll say, yeah, I did enough. Did you do enough? Yeah, I did. And so that has really helped me to delineate work and home. And it's left me more space to feel into my joy, to feel into my purpose, to feel into my truth. And it's helped me to be more present at work and to be more present at home. And then number 11, and I say this in a joking way, mind your manners with the gifts that life offers. Say yes and say thank you. There was a small part of me that wanted to resist, to say no to talking here today. I could have declined the gift, but having the opportunity to be here and share is wonderful. And so I said yes. I tried to let go of the doubt and the worry and just say yes. And of course, thank you. When you get a hint of intuition, when you feel a spark of joy, when you feel tuned into your purpose, it's important to say thank you. That keeps the door open to more and more truth, purpose, and joy. Thank you.
Thank you.